One summer afternoon, we were floating along the Kanamalupa Tamar estuary aboard the Lady Launceston. We'd been tasked with creating a performance inspired by these waters, and we caught the skipper at the end of his shift, knowing he'd passed many long days here. "Tell us about this place," we asked. And he turned and pointed to something washed up on the muddy bank. It was grey, about the thickness of a pool noodle, but curved and clearly muscular. "It's all mud and eels here," he said. And from that point on, we became entangled with the song of the eels. The very first eel, Anguilla, burst through her membrane into total darkness, rising up from the seafloor, chasing the dappled light from above. Enveloped in flowing waters, she drifts unconcerned, an endless pull towards someone unknown. One transparent body amongst a torrent of sea leaves dancing together in glittering light. They feast on marine snow. Riding the current cell, tiny bodies turning round and morphing to glass. And with that, for the first time, their whiskered nostrils breathe in the scents of the salty ocean. Feeling pulled onwards, away from the restless currents, open seas give way to brackish edges. Continents draw near, their rough, craggy edges specular. And Willard senses pressure, for her glass body becomes opaque. Muscles flex, swimming, gliding, blending, searching. Riverbanks closing in, waters are pushing against, yet Anguilla is undaunted. Over rocks, waterfalls, and hidden crevices, she and her tail are drawn to calm the morning. Lake, river, and stream becomes a place of rest and aging. With the coming and going of generations of other species, Anguilla moves slowly through reeds, mud, and murk, seeing and lurking alone amongst many. She grows long and heavy, feasting on fish and crustaceans, until one day she feels an irresistible calling back to the keening sea.
Usurps her ability to eat, relying now only on the fat accumulated over the decades of rest. Traversing grasslands and trickling streams into ever-widening rivers, more eels join the journey seaward. As though sensing the bitter waters of their youth, the eels' eyes change. They become enlarged and seeing as though having sight for the very first time. The eels swim vigorously against pulsating tides and torrents of sea that once carried their bodies to the place where they grew old. But the all-encompassing longing back to the place takes them back to the place of beginnings and ends, to the birthing sea, to the ocean cradle of life and of death. Again and again, this cyclic journey unfolds, from sea to the river, and from the river to the sea. Always following that longing back to the place of beginning. While whole continents drift north to south, each generation of eel furthering and furthering their journey to newly carved crevices, streams, rivers, and lakes. And this cycle of life persists through the unending weathering of landscapes, through ice ages, through warming interglacials, through extinctions and evolutions of plants and animals around them. New songs began to permeate around them. Vibrations felt for hours upon hours until finally great fleets of whales pass on by on their very own journey of migration. Around 45 million years ago, the eels extended their journey to the furthest peninsula of the great southern continent. And through blips of time when diaprodons stomped through the grasslands and thylacines stalked the forests, the eels kept on going. From river to sea, to river to sea, to river to sea, to river to sea, to river to sea.
In an instant, tens of thousands of years ago, the first human eyes were laid upon these migrating eels. Millennia passed, swimming, climbing, hiding, returning again and again to each of this island's lakes, rivers, and ponds. But mysteries remain from those ancient years, where traps and weirs set, where spears struck into flesh, where these fish caught and captured or smoked and traded. Did these eels, like all others, have their journey perturbed? Then, as the first colonizers began to arrive, three things were made clear. First, that these eels, like those back in Europe, were plentiful and easily caught. Second, that the traditional custodians of these lands wanted nothing to do with the anguillid species. And third, that upon catching an eel of a notable size, one must immediately contact your local paper. For the next 50 years, this obsession sustained. Properties were noted for their eely abundance, Advertisements listed for Mrs. Axford's freshly caught eels, and improbable stories were shared, like of an eel the size of a tree. The next half a century saw the rise of an industry. Eels caught in Tassie shipped off to London, jellied, smoked, and all. Then fishery laws were struck for how, when, and why to catch, yet those notable 28-pound eels did remain. Soon, just as our first hydro-powered lights did come on, so too was the mystery of the eel's journey finally revealed. Yet, more nets to catch, tanks to hold, and attempts to breed, all because the European anguillid began to collapse. Then, the dams got larger, the journey harder, their sense of smell and sound disturbed. The industry expanded exports where other eel species were in decline. Japan's Anguilla japonica, America's Anguilla anguilla, but the resilient Anguilla australis did return to these lakes, rivers, and ponds. Now, despite the declining appetite for eels, that historic delicacy from years past, these eels still seem only destined for two things at last: to be caught, fed, and processed, then shipped far away, and to get trapped all around those impenetrable dams. But their lives have changed some in the last 40 years. The elvers get carried over towering cement cliffs with their newly built ladders and bypasses. And one single study was undertaken to determine where the eels do survive. So, regardless of what we know of their rise from the seafloor and their journey from cradle to grave, the mysteries of the eels continue to grow. Like, where do exactly they return to? Which lakes, rivers, and ponds can they call home? Is their population at risk like all others? Can we ever truly know an eel song?
Since that fateful day aboard the Lady Launceston several years ago, our search for the eel song has led us to create instruments made from eel-skin. We came across surprises on every step of the way, from discovering that Tasmania has an eel export industry, to procuring live eels, to skinning them with Tasmanian master sushi chef and learning delicious ways to cook them. We experimented with different ways of drying and rehydrating its skin, scraping layers upon layers of fat and oil, to sewing its leather and tightening it to create a resonating membrane. Drawing upon deep traditions of skin-top instruments, we based our designs on pre-existing Chinese erhu and the Okinawan sanshin, until our eel instruments were born. As far as we know, the first of its kind.
You have just witnessed the first songs ever played on eel-skin. Just as the eels are enveloped in a longing to return to the sea, so too are we enveloped by the eel song.
Our curiosities are endlessly sparked by chasing something on the edges of human knowledge, something much older and bigger than us. We wonder, what curiosities will you follow? We wonder, what is your eel song?